What was the weirdest thing you saw on someone else's phone or computer? My ex came home from a bike ride and had his earphones in. I said hi and he took the earphones out. When I gave him a hug hello, I could hear porn sounds. I asked what it was and it turns out he'd ripped the audio from porn and was going on long cycles listening to it. So weird. He also carried porn mags in his bag and spent a lot of time on the roof garden. A woman across from there was convinced he was wanking at her. I've gotta wonder if she was right or just kept catching him listening to his porn audio and looking at his mags. I once saw this man watch Captain America porn on the bus seat next to me. At 12 p.m. He didn't even seem aroused or anything. He just watched it out of pure intrigue. Sometimes it's just your patriotic duty. It's like reverse Viagra in that it doesn't get you hard but it does provide some entertainment value, so you just watch as you would an episode of Garfield. I worked on IT while I was studying. We gave support to several small and medium-sized companies. One day the secretary of a client company called because she had trouble with her keyboard. Went there, changed the keyboard on her desktop, and she said that her personal laptop was really slow and asked me to check the laptop as a favor and that she will pay me for that now. She was a small, kinda shy woman on her early 30s, just married. We were not friends but we talked a little bit from time to time when I was there. That night at home I checked her laptop and it had a lot of malware and several useless startup programs and a really fragmented HD. While I was fixing all that I found a lot, and I mean it was a 1/3 of the hard drive space of hardcore lesbian porn. We're talking about bondage, fisting, several fetish, female domination. I said nothing. Fixed everything. Changed her antivirus and installed some free anti-malware software. Got paid and that's it. As a professional should. Good on you. I did support for a software dev company in the late 90s and had a similar discovery rebuilding someone's desktop. Restoring from tape was taking forever because the woman had a ton. Relative to the era of Arthurian fantasy themed porn, including a good bit of group sex. Also, after our widow graphic designer left, we collected his stuff and discovered his poor little iMac mobbed with barely legal and piss porn. We handled that thing as a biohazard. I was at a ski resort about 6 years ago when my friend found an iPhone sitting on a bench. He brought it back to our table and we gathered around to try to figure out who the owner was. It didn't require a password, so we looked at the person's most recent texts. The latest one was to babe or honey or something, and it was a video. We watched the video. It started out with someone walking, with ski boots on, into a bathroom. We recognized the bathroom as the one nearby. The video continues and the person goes into a stall. We all kinda look at each other like, WTF is this? The video continues and what we now realize is a man pulls out his stick. We're like, oh bit. He's sending a video of himself jerking off to his girl, only he doesn't start jerking off. He's pissing. It was a sunny California spring day, so the screen was hard to see, but someone said, that piss is super dark. As it continues, we realize the toilet water is turning dark reddish brown. We're watching a video of a dude pissing blood that he sent to his wife. Personally, being weird, I was like, what kind of weird kinky bit are these two into? So I grabbed the phone and text, I don't know what kind of freaky bit you all are into, but we found this phone at the mountain. We heard nothing for hours. Later that night, we got a text back and it was from the guy, via his wife's phone. He had spent the day in the emergency room with a bladder or kidney stone. He had texted the video to his wife, because she is a doctor, and told him to show her what he was experiencing, after calling her earlier and saying there was a little blood in his urine. Anyway, he got his phone back and I learned that I'm weird, because my reaction to a video of a guy peeing blood was to think it was some sort of amateur fetish porn. My friend was showing me pictures of the aftermath of a car crash he was in. Then he flicked one picture to many and there was his rock hard doc. My friend was showing me and a couple of our other friends something on Google and he had ducking werewolf porn bookmarked on the front page. What a duck in power move. Yeah, I like wolf porn. What about it? Long time ago, was still in high school. This really weird kid sat in front of me in computer science class. He was a Jehovah's Witness, tucked his jeans into his boots, and spoke really condescendingly to almost everyone, teachers included, especially if there was any holiday theme to any assignment. So when we had to write a program that had something to do with Halloween or Christmas, he would say something snarky and just leave the class. Also, he always wore those weird t-shirts with like extravagant paintings of leopards and tigers on cliffsides or wolves howling at the moon. Weird kid. So one day the class was about to end, and I looked over my monitor, and saw that he was scanning through still frames from the original Lion King movie, and smiling. Just still images from random scenes throughout the movie. When I asked what he was looking at, he closed them frantically, and began closing windows, which I then realized he had saved all of these images on his personal drive for school. I had seen kids the same age do the exact same thing with porn, that this kid did with pictures from the Lion King. As an ex-Jehovah Witness myself, I could think of a reason. In our religion, we are taught that we get to live in an earthly paradise where every animal will become tame. He probably longed for a lion as a pet and couldn't think of anything else. I had so many fanatic friends growing up that none of this story even strikes me as weird anymore. Sad to say, it is hard growing up in a cult. If you ever see the kid again, cut him some slack please. I had this weird friend in my boarding school. One time, he showed me a picture and it accidentally switched to a picture of Kim Jong-un. I said, haha, why do you have that on your phone? He laughed and showed me a folder with 200 pictures of Kim Jong-un in various situations. See, that's him fishing. Oh, and that's him delivering a speech. This one is him in his office. He described every picture for a solid 5 minutes until I changed the subject. I was in biology class and there was a girl sitting in front of me. She had her laptop open and was watching the Emoji Movie. Disgusting. I worked in a mobile phone store, was troubleshooting a customer's phone when she got a picture message from her slave in the nude, with cable ties around his balls. She just smiled and told me to finish fixing her phone or I'd be next. I was on a packed tram the other week. We were all crammed in like sardines and I was pressed up against a chap in his 50s or 60s. He was pretty short so I could see over his shoulder to his phone. He was holding quite close to his face as it seemed he had rather bad eyesight. This is how I got to read numerous explicit messages to considerably younger men on Grindr and Scruff. There were lots of them. Apparently daddy got game. A friend was showing me shots on her phone of some artwork she had done. She scrolls past and lands on photos obviously meant for her boyfriend. I looked away sharp while she buried the phone in her chest with that awkward obit stare. Now, I'm not sure but I'm almost 80% certain that there were stuffed toys and a cucumber involved. I claimed that I didn't see anything and as soon as I saw it was something risque on the top half. I looked away too quick to really see it. But you know that thing where the brain knows full well what it saw? Yeah, that. Back in middle school I came into art class to get some work done early. This one kid was sitting in the back of the class with a laptop. Whenever I walked past to get something, he'd rotate the screen so I couldn't see it. I didn't really care the first few times, but soon I got curious. I accidentally dropped a pencil on the ground behind him, and quickly took a glance at the screen. Dude was just watching YouTube videos of turtles crawling around. When I was about 12-13 I basically inherited my dad's old phone as he bought a new one. It was one of the first smartphones that had Wi-Fi and all that. So, my teen ass was downloading photos of bands on it and when I went to the image folder I found a really nasty picture of an orgy that my dad had forgotten. Now, this is odd because my father was a pastor in a church at the time and always reminded that porn, sex and homosexuality are a sin. Several years later I found more freaky porn on his laptop. I never mentioned it to him but it might be a good card to play if I need to. I was in chemistry class and the girl next to me had a picture of me sleeping as her lock screen. I don't know how she got the picture. I didn't confront her for I felt weird about it and didn't know how to handle the situation. What? Guy on the bus sitting in front of me unlocks his phone and wallpaper is his selfie. But it's a selfie of him taking a piss at the urinal. Mad lads. When I was fat, I had a terrible job that I hated. Didn't know why they hired me. Didn't seem to need me. 1 year in I see my boss's YouTube history. All fat fetish videos. More creepy than weird. But I was standing in the aisle of the train home and people don't realize you can see their screens. Especially standing at 6'4". I try not to be nosy but sometimes you can't help it. Anyway, this time in the seat in front of me was man who looked to be in his 50s-60s and he was on Facebook. As the journey continues he goes to this young girl's profile and starts studying her pictures. She must have been 14-15 and this guy was inspecting her pictures like like he was looking for Wally, zooming in on specific parts of images of this girl in her school uniform, examining her photos like CSI. It was really creepy, creeped me out for days. Back when I was in high school, I used to take a bus to get to college and back. Once, I was sitting next to a man in his 50s who seemed really sweet and even smiled at me when I spotted an empty seat next to him and went to claim it. I noticed that he was reading something on his phone as I sat down. I generally don't look into other people's phones, but he had his phone way out on his right side, almost on my lap, so I couldn't help but look into it. I could make out small bits and pieces like position, caress the spine smoothly, etc., which didn't make sense to me. Yet, about 10 minutes later, he began shifting in the seat and slouched over front and left, veering to the window. I noticed this because his movements were abrupt and almost jerked me off my seat as his arms flailed. He had his earphones on and I thought that he was going to watch a movie or something. About a few minutes in, I could hear moans. Faint at first but gradually becoming louder. I began to look around to see if somebody was playing pranks. Nobody was, but they were all staring at me. I had no idea what was going on. Then I turned to the man next to me and I realized what was happening. The man had plugged his earphones all right, but the jack hadn't gone all the way in. He couldn't hear anything, so he had been increasing the volume, oblivious to the fact that everybody around him could hear the sounds except him. When he realized what was happening, he didn't say a word and got down at the next stop.